Welcome to One Bills Lite, the air fryer edition of our daily show, One Bills Live, where we shoehorn everything Bills we can into about 40 minutes. Coming up, what under-the-radar players could surprise in Bills camp this summer. Steve gets quizzed in the numbers game, and Bills receiver Isaiah Hodgins on prepping for his first season on the field after shoulder surgery took away his rookie season. Let's roll it out!
And it's Steve Tasker who has been all over the field.
Kind of unique. He was kind of a dual-role player for you. Steve!
A balloon.
Steve! A blimp? We're not even in the stratosphere of normalcy here. Thank you for joining us here on One Bills Live. Chris Brown and Steve Tasker with you as always. And as Bills minicamp came to a close, there was a noticeable development in the play on the field. Young players on the roster, Steve, were making their presence felt. Greg Rousseau, Boogie Basham, batting down passes. Rashad Wildgoose had a takeaway. Isaiah Hodgins, who we'll speak with a little later, has made some head-turning receptions as well. Steve, I realize we still have to get to real football in training camp, but on a roster that is going to be hard to make, there might be some underestimated players in terms of how ready some first- and second-year guys might be to make some legitimate contributions this season.
Yeah, no question about it. The youth on this team is becoming prevalent. I think they drafted these guys high in the first round, with A.J. Epinesa and even Greg Rousseau this year. Last year, Gabe Davis got a surprising opportunity to contribute, and he did. Zach Moss was the number 2 running back on a running back by committee kind of philosophy, so he got a ton of carries. There's a lot of room and for guys to make the roster because they've got guys who can. I think the incredible thing is he got young players who, when they got a small window to do something, they flashed. Dane Jackson is a great example of that. There's guys who have been on the team who would still probably be considered very young players, like Tommy Sweeney, who has not seen the field, and this is going to be his 3rd year. Last year, completely off the roster with COVID and an injury and the myocarditis due to COVID. So you've got a lot of young players who are still a little bit like these draft picks that we've got this year. Pretty intriguing, and you want to see what they really can bring to the table. And some of them, a guy like Sweeney, with some time under his belt in the system, could come out and really spread his wings and do some things.
It's very interesting to me every year how the construction of the roster takes place. When this was the early years of the regime, they were trying to thrust young veteran players into prominent roles. You know, they signed Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, guys who have been in the league a few years. Bang, you're starters. You're going to be cornerstone players for us. They take some high draft choices, Tre'Davious White, Deion Dawkins, Tremaine Edmonds, Josh Allen. They put them in, major roles, and then they fill in with some affordable veteran free agents around them. I think that's starting to change now, because the core of the team, which is rooted in draft choices, they're now starting to become young veterans, and they're looked to be less of an effort to sign the second, third-tier free agent veteran players, 30 years and older, and instead they have reinvested in youth, and it looks, based on the appearance of the roster, that they are not afraid to rely on that youth to serve in prominent roles should one of the starters go down to injury. Whether it's, whether Dane Jackson wins the job from Levi Wallace or not, it was very telling that for the first time in the McDermott Bean regime, they did not sign a veteran corner to compete with the young corners there at that role. They draft DeMar Hamlin, a guy that they from what I've been told, they absolutely love his future. He's not going to start this year at safety, but he's probably going to make the roster and play on special teams, serve a role there, and who knows, maybe he pushes guys like Jaquan Johnson, another draft choice who's probably going to be the 3rd safety on the roster this year. And then you've got those 2 high draft choices, Basham and Rousseau. How much do they push the veteran starters? If one of those guys goes down, do they have complete confidence that those 2 players could step into what could be a pretty prominent role? And we haven't even mentioned A.J. Epinesa yet. So there is this influx of youth that's pushing from the bottom of the roster up trying to reach the ceiling and get on the field. So if you had to pick 2 or 3 first or second year players on this roster that you believe could have a role who did not have one of much weight last year, who might you pick?
I think there's some obvious candidates: A.J. Epinesa, Dane Jackson, Zach Moss, Gabriel Davis. I think one that's on the radar that we're going to hear from in a minute is Isaiah Hodgins. The reason I say Isaiah Hodgins, a wide receiver in a group of very deep wide receiver talent, he still may get an opportunity because of his size and his length, and the skill set he brings. He's a little bit like Emmanuel Sanders in that regard, a route runner with a little bit more size. But I think you got to go to. I think Dane Jackson is the guy. I think he's the guy that's got a chance to step up. He was, late round pick last year, and got a chance to get in the game. Had a little bit of an injury, but flashed some grit, some athleticism, and some ball hawking abilities, and like it or not, some confidence. Which I think is on the top 3 list for corners in the NFL. So he's got a lot of the tools, and in fact, the only tool he doesn't have is great size and length. He's a smaller guy, but he battles. He's got the skill set, and he's got the attitude that makes me think he's going to be able to earn his way onto the field.
Yeah, I think Epinesa and Jackson are probably the 2 most likely to step into larger roles here in year 2 for both of them being members of the 2020 draft class. There are some interesting guys, though, that you wonder how hard and how far can they push the coaching staff to give them some kind of role somewhere, even if it's sub-package on defense or maybe some core special teams role. I mean, we had Nick Hicks on our daily show, One Bills Live, last week, and yes, he was talking about all the efforts Devin Singletary has made to have a big year 3, improving his speed and whatnot, but he's also worked with Rashad Wildgoose, and he was raving about him, absolutely raving about him, and that is a corner who does have length. I mean, he's 6'1", long arms, and he's made some plays in camp, turned some heads. We'll see if it continues when the pads go on, but there are guys at the bottom half of this roster that I think are really going to push some of these veteran players. And Deion Dawkins said it, Steve. He said, we know why these guys are here. Spencer Brown, Tommy Doyle, they're here to push the veterans. And they don't scoff at that. They're not insulted by that. It's just the way business is done in this league. I don't have to tell you. It's a cutthroat league.
You said something earlier that I thought was really telling. And early on in Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane's tenure, they always had this thing, and he said it publicly. They would like to have a veteran player in the building, in each position room, a veteran corner, a veteran D lineman, a veteran edge rusher, a veteran linebacker, a veteran, wide receiver, and all. And now it's gotten to the point now in their 4th year where the veterans are coming from guys they drafted since they've been here. Tre'Davious White, Tremaine Edmonds, those kind of guys, and even Harrison Phillips,
Deion Dawkins. They've got veterans whom they have groomed in-house. They don't have to go out and shop for a quality veteran free agent. Even Mitch Morse now is a guy that they brought in who is a veteran, snapped for Mahomes during his MVP year 3 years ago. Now he's, I think he's kind of considered more of a Bill now than anybody else, but also a guy who's a veteran guy who is now acclimated for a couple of years. But it's mostly guys now, like Ed Oliver's kind of come into it. You'd think he could spread his wings a little bit this year. And, of course, the running backs now, Devin Singletary is a 3rd-year guy with Matt Breida. But I think, and while that transition we're talking about hasn't completely taken place in all these position groups, it's easy to see certain guys on this team becoming the lead dog in that room and the wily veteran, even though they're kind of coming into their prime. And I know we've discussed this on our daily show, One Bills Live, but we know that Coach McDermott typically brings rookies and sometimes second-year players along slowly. But he's also shown if you can demonstrate you're capable of helping right now, you're going to get on the field. And we saw it just last year.
Gabriel Davis.
Yeah.
Week 1.
Zach Moss, Tyler Bass.
Gabe Davis caught the first pass of the season from Josh Allen. They bring, and I think that the brilliance of this coaching staff, or one of the things that they do extremely well, is they do push everybody on this field to get better, and they have the ability to give them what they earn. If they earn some playing time, they give it to them at the expense of someone else. You have to pull somebody off to put somebody on, but they bring them along at their own pace. They do not they don't throw them in and let them sink or swim. They give them what they can handle. If they can't handle getting on the field in an NFL game, they never see the field.
Right. They only do it if they feel they're at a point now where they can trust them. Here's another example. Even with undrafted players, Cam Lewis, the UB product, makes the practice squad as a rookie. Never is off the practice squad. Second year, same thing. And then last year, he makes the roster and then is performing so well, he unseats Taron Johnson, who has started in the position for 3 years.
Yep.
Taron Johnson is out of the starting lineup to play the Chiefs. Cam Lewis is in and starting. Now, he breaks his wrist, and he's out for the rest of the season, the 1 quarter into the game. But what is Steve? The undrafted guy is finally ready year 3. They put him in the biggest game of the year.
Yeah.
First career start.
That says what this coaching staff does so well. They set a philosophy, and they do not waver. It speaks to the players. It keeps the players motivated. It empowers the players. It motivates the guys down the roster to make the best players better. It's a great philosophy, and the brilliance of it is their ability to stay disciplined in every aspect of what they're doing. Not only Sean McDermott getting these guys at the bottom of the roster to push the top of the roster and make sure that anybody who deserves it gets on the field in some way, shape, or form. Jake Kumaro, we didn't even know who he was. Bam, touchdown in Denver because he practices hard, plays hard, and he played special teams. So not only that on the field where you get guys like that, but also off the field when Brandon Beane, they do not get outside the lines in free agency. If that guy's too expensive, we are not going after him. We'll get him if he's at our price. They will, and they check out every single free agent, whether they're high-priced superstars or a guy we've never heard of. They do not get outside the lines financially, and that guy always fits where they expect him to fit. And I think that discipline of staying within those lines has really been the difference in this regime here in Buffalo.
All right, time now for the numbers game. And Steve, this deals with young players as well. I am going to challenge you to see if you can name the top 3 NFL teams that had the most starts by rookies in 2020. Now, the way the league typically counts this is a little screwy. They go offense and defense only. So if you have a rookie kicker like the Bills, those starts wouldn't count. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm counting them. So teams that had rookie punters or rookie kickers that played in all 16 games, I'm counting that as 16 starts, just so you know. All right? So top 3 NFL teams that had the most starts by rookies in 2020. Let's begin.
Buffalo's got to be on that list.
They are not in the top 3, Steve.
What are they?
They are tied for 19th with 30 games.
All right, let's say this then. I will say Houston.
Houston is not on that list in the top 3, no.
Most rookies.
Most rookie starts.
The New York Football Jets.
The New York Jets are 5th. You're close. They are 5th. 58 starts from rookies. So just to give you... Oh, go ahead. You have a thought?
Just give me what?
I was just going to give you a little bit of a guide. In some cases, this is usually a team that's near the bottom of the league and is starting a lot of young players, or it's a team that has drafted maybe unexpectedly well and puts people on the field sooner rather than later.
Cincinnati.
Not Cincinnati, no.
LA Chargers.
Sorry, not the LA Chargers.
The Raiders.
Not the Raiders.
Who would be a young team? Cincinnati. Cleveland, no way. Cleveland?
It is not Cleveland, no.
Let's see. How many teams have I guessed now that I'm going to...
There are, I will tell you, in
Carolina.
the top... Carolina number 3, Steve. Very
Carolina.
good. 75 starts from rookies last year. 75. And they're number 3. So the other 2 teams are even higher.
It's got to be...
They're both AFC teams.
It wasn't Jacksonville. I said Jacksonville. I didn't say
It's
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Number 2 at
Oh,
78.
I thought I said Jacksonville. Talked myself out of
78.
it. All right, so
So the
Carolina,
top spot is all.
Jacksonville, and it wasn't. And
They're in the AFC.
not Indy, not Tennessee. I will say Pittsburgh.
It is not Pittsburgh. No.
Not Baltimore. I'm gonna say New England last year.
It is not New England. You're in the right division, though.
Seriously, Miami.
It's Miami with 89. I was stunned by this.
Who?
I'm going to run down the list. I'm just looking for it on my
About
computer
Tua.
right now. So you had Tua,
got
although he
9.
didn't start the
You got
whole
9.
season. Okay, so they had a bunch of offensive linemen start for them. I believe Austin Jackson was on that list. Their new left tackle that they
Well,
drafted.
that's why I grabbed the Jets because Mekhi Becton. And
Right. And so, yeah, you remember those top picks that get on the field early, but they had Robert Hunt, started at right tackle, 11 starts. Raekwon Davis, the defensive tackle, 12 starts. Brandon Jones, the third-round safety, 4 starts. The guard, Solomon Kinley, 13 starts.
Wow.
Defensive end, Jason Strobridge, 8 starts. Malcolm Perry, the running back, even had 2 starts with Gaskins. And then you had, they even had undrafted free agents, 2 of them. And they traded for Lynn Bowden with the Raiders, and he came in and started 4 games. So they had a long list of guys. All right, so now give me the bottom 3 teams, Steve,
the oldest
for
teams.
rookie starts in the NFL. Bottom 3 teams in 2020, fewest starts by rookies in the entire league.
Rams.
Not the Rams.
Seattle.
Not Seattle. They're in the bottom 3rd, but they're not at the very bottom.
San Francisco.
No on San Fran.
Kansas City.
Not KC. KC was tied with Buffalo at 19th. 30 starts from rookies. They had Clyde Edwards-Helaire,
Oh,
a couple other guys.
New Orleans.
New Orleans, 26th. Close.
All right.
You're getting down there. These teams, I'm going to tell you, these last 3 teams in the league, single-digit starts by rookies. Single
Green Bay.
digits. Not Green Bay, no. You mentioned one of these teams as one of your guesses for the top 3, and they are dead last in the league. Dead last. And they were not very successful last year either.
Cincinnati.
Not Cincinnati.
Single digits. Golly.
So I will tell you.
Atlanta.
Not Atlanta. So there's one NFC team. There are 2 AFC teams, both of whom are in the same division, relying on a lot of veteran players in an effort to win games. One did win enough games to qualify for the playoffs.
Washington.
Not Washington. AFC, buddy. AFC. So it's AFC South, Steve.
Tennessee.
Tennessee, they only had 5 starts from rookies last year. Remember, their first-round pick was a flameout. He's out of the league now.
What about Indianapolis?
Not Indy.
How about
And you know Jacksonville's already at the top of the list, 78
Houston.
starts. It's Houston. 4 starts
that's right. I remember
from
that now.
rookies.
They got
4.
the oldest and the worst roster in the league.
That is astounding. 4 starts from rookies, and the number 29, number 30 team in the league was Arizona. Arizona with 8 starts from rookies last year.
How has it gone so wrong for Houston? in
It's-
the playoffs 2 years ago.
It is a colossal
They won a
mess.
playoff. They won a playoff game 2 years ago.
Yeah, against us. It's
That's
shocking,
that's
isn't
a
it?
Colossal failure.
And they have been super active in free agency to turn the roster over. A lot of one-year contracts, but I think they signed like upwards of 30 players in free agency. And old guys, like Rex Burkhead and people like that. So
And
it doesn't look
Andre-
like it's going
and
to
Andre
change
Roberts
anytime
on that
soon.
team?
They might be last in rookie starts again this year. With the way that's looking, you know what I mean? It's going to be a long road back for that franchise, and they still haven't figured the Deshaun Watson thing out yet either.
Oof.
All right, good effort there, Steve. Time for
Yeah,
us to be
good effort.
joined by a young player who flashed at the Bills' most recent minicamp. It's former sixth-round pick Isaiah Hodgins, who's looking to make the roster and make an impact this season. Fresh off the practice field from day 2 of minicamp. Isaiah, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. We want to begin here. Last year at this time, you were just getting your feet wet in a virtual setting. You weren't even on a field yet because of COVID and everything, as you well know. I'm just curious, what was the stress level like once you got to training camp? First of all, you're trying to navigate the whole COVID situation with teammates and coaches. Then you're also trying to make a roster, and you're also trying to fight through a shoulder issue. So where was your stress level on a scale of 1 to 10 last year?
It was a little different, definitely going through all that stuff. And, you're used to being in college and having spring ball and leading up to things. And at least, as you were saying, knowing the playbook and all that, and me dealing with an injury and kind of not having a real off season, it was real different. So I felt like we kind of just got thrown into the fire. So it was definitely a different experience and, a little bit more stressful than I feel like other rookies in the past have been through. But I feel like the coaches helped a lot, and, we made our way through it.
How difficult was the decision to shut it down last year with your shoulder? And was there an incident that did it to you that finally said, hey, I got to shut it down? Or how did those conversations happen?
Yeah, I went into getting drafted, and, the staff and the coaches and everyone knew that eventually I had to get shoulder surgery. I already had a tear in my shoulder, and it was pretty bad, which, was affecting me a certain amount. But we kind of both communicated that I wanted to try to play as long as I can and try to see, how long it would hold up. And there was just a couple of instances during camp and, outside of camp, just lifting and other stuff where it just wasn't really holding up good. And it was a hard decision because I really wanted to keep pushing and felt like I was just about to get ready to get back out there on the field. But, me and Bean kind of came to a decision together that, it was time to, wrap it up and get ready so I could be healthy for next year and contribute.
If there was a silver lining to, basically taking a redshirt year here, it was the fact that you probably had more time to spend with your growing family because Isaiah Jr. came along right after the season opener, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was that was definitely one positive that I feel like helped me a lot. I was able to spend a lot of time with my son and, help out my wife. And, I wasn't as gone as much, so I kind of see him, grow throughout the months. And, it was a great experience, being a first-time dad, and it still is. So, I'm still watching him grow, and, it's just I'm blessed to be in that position.
Is he long like his dad, or?
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know where he gets. I get the height, but he's like 95th percentile in height and weight. So even to this day. So yeah, his doctor checkups are always funny. So.
So you had the surgery, you had the baby. How long did it take you? And tell us about your status now. Since when have you been healthy? And how? You just came out of a red contact jersey just this week. How has it felt, and how has that process gone?
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this OTA and minicamp, this whole time because, it's my first time being back on the field since last training camp. But, it was a 6-month recovery from when I got surgery in December. So I finally got cleared this month. So that's why they took me out the red jersey. So, I was super excited to get out there and, just kind of run around and not have to think about my shoulder because, even last year, even on practices where it didn't dislocate or nothing happened, it was just still in the back of my head that, something bad could happen to it and I need surgery. But, now that I got surgery and, I've done a lot of rehab with this training staff and they've done a great job helping me, I go out there and I have a whole different confidence in my shoulder now. So I feel like it's helping me as a player as well.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, Isaiah, because once you make the decision that, okay, we're going to get the shoulder fixed, but I still want to stay engaged. I want to be in tune with everything that's going into the offense every week so I can keep up on how that morphs and changes. I'm sure you've already learned very quickly how Brian Dable is not afraid to change something as late as a Thursday on a game week and put it in for Sunday. And you want to be on top of all that stuff, even though you might not be physically repping it on the field. So what did you do to stay as engaged as possible so as not to have such a huge learning curve when you did get back on the field here in the spring?
Yeah, it just took a lot of dedication of just, studying and really staying on top of things and day ball, and my wide receiver coach Chad and some of the vets like Diggs too would just tell me the same thing. It's just really staying tapped in and really trying to pick something every day to kind of learn from everybody. And I was taking that whole time to really learn the playbook, learn all the positions. I could go in the slot, outside, ZX, whatever, and just really sitting here every practice and watching Diggs and how he practices in and out, and Cole Beasley and what he does, and at the time John Brown, and just learning the offense more to now I have the confidence to where I know every position, and I have some tools that I didn't have last year that I learned from just watching and sitting back last year. So I feel like taking that step back, I didn't want to do it, but it kind of helped me in the long run.
So you have your son, your first-time father, this last September of last year, and now a lot of people don't know that your dad also was a Super Bowl winning fullback with the Rams back in the day. What has he passed on to you? And if there was something that you knew right now you were absolutely going to pass on to your son, what would it be?
I feel like my dad passed a lot on to me, just really knowing the ins and outs of the NFL. And obviously, it changes every year, but him just, teaching me how to last in the NFL, and, what are some pro habits that I need to have, and, what they're looking for and how I need to act, and, what I can do every practice. And he played with a lot of great receivers like Larry Fitzgerald, Anquan Bolden, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, and he would tell me just the practice habits of these guys and what they would do, and, how they would practice and how they would compete. So, I felt like I took a little bit of all of that, and I feel like for my son, I would basically, try to tell him the same thing of just, getting him the insights of it, but just really just making sure that he has that confidence in himself. And I feel like, the wide receiver room, we talk about that a lot. It's just, really, trusting you first and really believing in you and your talents and what you can do. Because if you don't do that, then someone else isn't going to do it for you. And the quarterback's not going to trust you if you don't trust yourself. So you got to really sit there and have confidence and go out there with a dark mentality every day.
I remember when, I interviewed you and your brother for a story we did on BuffaloBills.com last year. You were talking about how your dad was pretty tough on you guys in terms of making you football ready at a pretty early age. Can you just share with the audience? Because I thought it was hilarious, because I can picture this. And I just picture a neighbor walking by on the sidewalk watching a dad put his kids, who are still probably under 10 years of age, and you're doing ladder drills and push-ups, and he's got the hose out there and he's hitting you with the hose. Just relay that for our listening audience so they can kind of picture it.
Yeah, he only did that one time because I told him I wasn't doing that again. That was crazy. He really had us out there doing gator rolls and ladder drills and just a bunch of different crazy stuff on the front porch, while spraying us with a hose, because it was just a hot day. So I don't know what he was trying to simulate, just rainy games or just something. I feel like he was just really getting a kick out of it looking back, because, we were little and we were just yeah, we'll do whatever you say. So, we were kind of just having fun with it. But yeah, there's tons of moments like that. But, he definitely taught us a lot and it was fun.
You've also got a younger sibling, Isaac, who is a defensive end in college at Oregon State, your alma mater as well. Both you guys came out of there. Give us an idea of what his career plans are. What's he like? Is he liking it? Did you have a good experience at Oregon State? How's his experience going? And do you guys talk about, and what do you talk about when you reach back to him?
Yeah, I had a great experience at Oregon State. I felt like they really got me ready for the NFL, and my wide receiver coach there was great, and I felt like they put me in a great position to succeed, playing in the slot, playing outside and all that. And then I loved playing with my brother, it just reminded me of, we played on the same high school team, the same Pop Warner team. So just, growing up, playing always on the same team, and then being at that collegiate level. So now we're playing way bigger games, and seeing him on defense, play versus Oregon and get a sack and, do all this while I'm just on the sideline on offense. So, it was just fun to watch that, and it kind of just always took me back to the good old days. And then there was always those times of practice too, where if there was time I could get a little cheap shot on him, I would get it. But, that's just the brotherly love that we had. But, I feel like he's doing great. He has great pro habits, and he's a hard worker, man. He's always first one on the field, last one off. So, I feel like his future's very bright.
Talking to Isaiah Hodgins, Bills wide receiver, and you shared with us before we came on the air that he's actually getting married this weekend. So you got to hightail it out of town to get to the ceremony. How is your best man speech shaping up? I'm assuming you're the best man. God, I hope you are.
Yeah. I'm definitely the best man. I'm still kind of working on a speech. I'm trying. I got to do the toast at dinner and the speech and just a bunch of different stuff. So, I'm still kind of working on it. But, yeah, I got to get out of here on Friday and head straight to that wedding. So, I'm excited for him. It's a big step in his life.
Well, good luck. Appreciate it. It's good. Thanks for coming on, Isaiah. Good luck. Travel safe, and congratulations on getting healthy, getting back on the field, and giving the Bills fans and the Bills coaching staff a chance to see what you can really do. Congratulations.
Yes, sir. I'm excited. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, we close up this episode of One Bills Lite with Will It Happen? Steve, are you ready?
I am ready.
Number one, the Bills carry 7 receivers on their 53-man roster this season. Will it happen?
I say yes. I think it's going to be more of the same this year. I think they're going to force teams to go very deep into their roster in the secondary, and it will force teams to lighten up in the front 7 with smaller, more athletic bodies and fewer guys packed in around the box. So, yes, I think they will. I think that's the trend the league's going in, and I think the Bills will be at the forefront of it.
I agree. I think for the first time since I can remember, this team will have 7 receivers on the active roster when they cut it down to 53. The only question is who's 6 and 7. I think you can find a pretty easy way to get through the first 4 or 5. 6 and 7 is where the real hardcore battles are going to come in camp. All right. Will it happen? Number 2. Isaiah Hodgins has more receptions in 2021 than Isaiah McKenzie. Will it happen?
I'm going to say, man, that's a tough one.
Now, keep in mind, those little sweeps when he tosses it, that counts as a reception.
I get it. I'm going to say no, Hodgins will not have more than Isaiah McKenzie. But there's a chance.
It's tough, isn't it? That's why I made it one.
I'm going to say no. McKenzie is a guy they depend on. He'll have more opportunities, and with the depth of receivers, I think it's going to be hard for Hodgins to get on the field. And certainly when he gets on the field, he's not going to be the number 1 option, even in the red zone.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say McKenzie.
I want to say yes. I'm a believer in Hodgins' game.
I am too.
But, yeah, I think McKenzie is too entrenched. I think the only thing that could have Hodgins eclipse McKenzie is if he is the primary returner on kicks and punts, then his time on offense may be scaled back slightly, where it's only a package of plays per se, and then that could open the door. But even so, I tend to agree with you. Hodgins, though he stands a good chance to probably make the roster, I think he's going to be buried on the depth chart as far as the pecking order goes.
Right.
Okay, number 3, Steve. Marquez Stevenson makes the active roster. Will it happen? It sounds like a ridiculous proposition, but when you look at this roster and who they have at wide receiver, does a 6th-round draft choice make it?
I think he's got practice squad written all over him, but I don't know that the guy won't make the active roster like in week 14. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Or 13, later on in the season. I think he's got practice squad written on him at this current time. Development, injuries. He's got a chance because of that, because of the attrition of the position, and because I think he's too good an athlete not to have around. He mimics Isaiah McKenzie's skill set. I'm going to say during the season, maybe not opening day, but during the season, yes, he's got a shot at it.
I wonder, well, here's the first thing. The first thing is this. His best chance to make the roster is by proving he's the best return man on the roster. So if his cut and go straight line speed ability is on display in the preseason, and he can prove that I am the best kick returner, I am the best punt returner, then he's obviously on the roster. Short of that, I don't know that he is, and I wonder where this front office and coaching staff is at when it comes to players that they'd like to have around and develop, but know if they put them on the practice squad, they could be poached. And I think Marquez Stevenson is a candidate for that on some, for some teams that are receiver needy.
Right.
So I wonder how they work their way through that kind of decision making. And again, I think this is a summer where Brandon Beane will have some trade opportunities because his roster is overflowing with talent at certain positions. So it's going to be very interesting to keep our ears to the ground to see what comes to pass in terms of preemptively moving people off the roster to make the roster decisions to get to 53 easier.
The only question is, what are they going to trade for? Are they going to trade for a player they need for some depth, or are they going to trade for draft capital in the upcoming draft?
I think it's draft capital all the way, Jose, because we've already talked about it. The 2022 draft class is going to be extraordinarily deep with all the kids that went back to college this past year because they were granted an extra year of eligibility by the NCAA because of the pandemic. And the pool is going to be 1/3 larger than it normally is. It is going to be gigantic, and I think the GMs in the league are aware of that, and they'll be after draft choices for sure. That'll do it for this edition of One Bills Lite. Be sure to subscribe so you know when we're coming at you with a new episode. And remember, when there isn't enough time for our daily show, One Bills Live, there is always enough time for One Bills Lite. For Steve Tasker, I'm Chris Brown. We'll catch you next time, everybody.